Hey, 915 High School Football Insiders, Brent Hallman out here at El Dorado High School with Coach Frank Martinez. Coach, thanks for having us out here on a busy school day now that school started. So, Coach, this is your 4th year out here at El Dorado High School.
Yes, sir.
Got to see like what it's like in your program as people progress through. So I know it's a big year for you coming up. But before we get into talking about that, I want to take some time for our listeners to familiarize them with you. And if you could just take some time to talk about what football looked like for you in the beginning as a young player, and then how that transitioned into coaching and brought us here to El Dorado High School as the head coach.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, football has been, the way I was brought up as a man. Growing up, lost my father when I was 5 years old. Mom put me in football, and since then I've had some great coaches throughout the years, from Little League, middle school, high school, all the way through college. And, I just wanted to give back, to that. They're the ones that helped show me how to be a man. And, that was something that as I graduated, had some different things that I was looking into doing. And the one thing was, my principal at the time, Dr. G, she was also, she had a son kind of going through the ranks at the time. And she was like, have you ever thought about coaching? I said, yeah, I would love to. She was like, I think you'd be good at it. And, gave it a shot. And that's how I started off at Chapin High School. And, ever since then, it was a blessing. So I really give a lot of credit to Dr. Carla Gonzalez, because she was the one that, really, kind of put that jump start into my career. And, I never looked back, and I've enjoyed it ever since. And, being able to give back to these young men, some of the stuff that I was brought up with, that's really the reward for me day in, day out, year in and year out.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest impacts coaches have, the effect they have on young men's lives.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, being raised without a father, a lot of young men go through that. So coaches will be that male figure in their life. So that's a very important thing and a great way to give back. So, and we've been seeing it with you now for 4 years, Coach. This is your 4th year. You've had guys who came in as a freshman. This year is their senior year under you. Now, it's also a big year, a lot of changes over those 4 years. Different districts, different classifications, up, down. So in the 2024 season, of course, the big thing is the reclassification, of course, down to 5AD1. But of course, the big change of what 5AD1 looked like, it went from being one of the biggest districts in our city to now the smallest district in our city. And again, some changes to what the schedules look like. So again, you are looked at as one of the favorites in that district because of the reclassification, because of some of the great talented athletes you have here in your program. But talk to us about what your expectations are for this upcoming 2024 season for El Dorado High School.
Yeah, like you mentioned before, having this group of seniors that, our first year coming in, they were freshmen, and being able to go through our culture and understand, everything that we bring to the table. Our ACE is our acronym that we use. It's what we live by, having great attitude, being committed to excellence, and, giving max effort each and every day. These guys embody it. We have a few that I'll name off later on as well, but, those guys have really paved the way to have a successful season. And that's what we're looking forward to. These guys have been busting their hump, ever since last game of the season, of this past season. Ever since then, they've been, getting after it. And, it's a testament to them day in and day out, the work that they put in. And I'm excited for those guys, especially those seniors, to have that hard work pay off this year.
Yeah, exactly. Now, one of the things I want to ask you about, how do you feel about the new district with the new schedule, with having to play some teams in your district twice to kind of fill out the schedule? A little bit non-standard, but again, hey, sometimes you don't go to war with what you want, you go to war with what you got, and that's what you're rocking with this season. So what's your outlook on that this season, Coach?
You know what? At first it's different, so anything different, you're kind of like, you're kind of uneasy about it. We're used to playing 10 different opponents, throughout the regular season. But, as we started looking more and more into it, in the NFL, obviously they do it. There's been different places around the state that have actually done it before.
Okay.
And so we kind of looked at those aspects. I talked to some of those coaches, and they said, Coach, this is, if not harder, at least it's going to challenge you guys that much more, because you're going to play those teams, and it means something. It's not a non-district game. It's every game counts. And after you play them that first week, you might see complete changes. You might see tweaks. They're going to know, what they need to adjust. And, those last 3 games are going to be like playoff games. because everybody has that research. They've already, kind of been accustomed to, what you guys do. And, at the end, it's going to be strategy and, the different intricacies that we can add to those games. So we're looking forward to it. Our boys are, our mantra this year also is going 1-0 each week. So, we're going to prepare, each game, as it's our last. And, going into that second round of that district play, we're really excited for that.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it's a good selling point too with the NFL. But if you look at it, a lot's expected out of those guys. Exactly. You should be able to play a team twice because you're the best. Hey, when Alabama plays Georgia a second time, it's usually in the national championship, Exactly. So, again, there's a reason that it's expected. So it's a good selling point. But, again, to your point as well, though, it's hard to beat a team twice, It's hard sometimes to beat a team once, and then you got to go back and do it again and then factor in injuries and stuff as well. So that's a valid point, too. So, to have a successful season and to have a successful program, where you get guys to come from incoming freshmen to senior, you got to have a good relationship with your feeder programs. So if you want to just take a minute and tell me about some of the programs you have with your feeder school or schools that you're instituting here and that you've been using over the last 4 years since you took over as the head coach.
Yeah, no, definitely. I appreciate that question because that's something that, we really knew we had to hit the ground running with as soon as we came in. I built that relationship with the principals at the middle schools, and, we had some great ones and we have some new ones now that are really great with, making sure that we're part of their programs as much as they are with us. So, at Hambrick, at Hernando, and over at Antoine, we have really great principals, administrators, athletic coordinators, and coaches that have all really bought into, the Empire. A lot of the signage that you'll see, over, not just in our locker room, here in our weight room, but also in our school is one Empire. And our principal, Mrs. Benincourt, she really, emphasizes that, 8 tribes, all 8 of our, feeders, but one Empire. We're all one family, so to speak. Right. And that's something that, we've really been trying to implement different things. 2 things is our Character Matters program. Yeah. We've been doing that when I was with Coach Walker, over at Franklin High School. That was something that I really, believed in. Wade Salem, he's the one that, is in charge of that program. And I wanted to bring it here to El Dorado, and I wanted to bring it to our entire feeder. So, we go down and we give presentations of Character Matters to our kids to help them understand, it's as much mentally and emotionally as it is physically to be successful, as an athlete and as a person. So that's a big program that we implement. We're very blessed here at El Dorado to have a great strength and conditioning coordinator, Coach Gabaldon. And what he does also is he helps with the middle school workouts. So every Tuesday and Thursday, we go down to all 3 of our middle schools. It's Coach G, myself, our 2 coordinators, our head track coach, Coach Sadonanya. We all rotate and we go see those kids and we work them out on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And it helps build that bond, with them. It helps them get those fundamental movements, and it helps them, also, understand the one Empire culture.
I'll tell you what, that's a big program right there, Coach, because as you look at football across the state, one of the things I think that we might be a little bit behind in as a city and as a county at large especially is the weightlifting and strength and conditioning programs at the middle school level. Yes, sir. You look at some of those schools in Dallas, Fort Worth, and some of those middle schools in Houston, hey, this is what their weight room looks like, Exactly. So they got big time programs there where you got kids that already have a good solid foundation before they get to the high school level and before they take their first step into a weight room as an incoming freshman. But, that kind of sets me up for my next question and that's what can an incoming freshman and his parents, quite frankly, expect from Coach Martinez and his assistant coaches here at El Dorado from the time they walk in this weight room as an incoming freshman for their first summer workout to the day they sign their their letter of intent to play college football. What's that look like here at El Dorado?
Plain and simple, what I tell the parents and our players is coming to El Dorado to become a man. And like I mentioned before, that's why I got into this profession. Yeah. And we understand, we take full responsibility, and we understand, how important the responsibility is that we're with those kids more than their parents are throughout the school year. We understand with workouts in the morning, practices in the afternoon, and everything in between is, we're with them a ton of time, and we have that influence on them. So we want them to know that, number one, we're going to care for them, right? And number two, we're going to make sure that we instill the same more high standards and morals that they have at home here at our campus. So that's one thing, is we try to build those relationships with not just the player, but also the families, because that's a big thing that we have here with Mrs. Betancourt's, One Empire, is it's not just the kids, it's our community, so that's a big thing that we really emphasize here at El Dorado.
And I tell you what, you talked about it earlier about, character matters, and that side of it,
Yes,
plays a lot in the football. And, sports in general, but football particularly, is a lot of hard work for potentially zero payoff.
Yeah.
And that's the risk you take as an athlete, and especially football, because again, the ball might never, come to you one time in a football game,
Yeah.
but you still had to prepare all week
Exactly.
like it was, and it just gets dictated. So there's a big mental aspect of it. And again, that program, and I've seen it in your program, coaches, some of these athletes that you've raised over the last 3 and 4 years. And I'll take the time to ask you a couple questions and classify them basically in 2 different groups. The first group are the guys we're going to read about on Saturday mornings that light up the scoreboard in the statistic category. Those are going to be your athletes. Who are some of those big-time athletes we can expect to hear out of El Dorado? I think one of them might be Ryan Estrada. I think we might read his name once or twice.
Yeah.
So I know you're going to talk about him, but some of those other guys that we expect to see lots of good things out of on Friday nights.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned, the top guy, Ryan Estrada, that everybody talks about. Exactly. And, what's great about him is not just his athletic ability, but the character of the young man. Great kid, comes from a great family, and, we couldn't speak higher of an individual, not just athletically, but, as a human being.
Yeah.
And so we really appreciate having him, and, he's taken tremendous strides with everything that he's had to overcome, and obviously we're excited for the year that he's going to have. But, his surrounding cast is huge, and guys that are definitely – exactly. Jadarius Sanders, the guy on the outside that's really going to open it up. Exactly. He had a great, year in track, and we're looking for that speed to translate onto the field. A guy that's one of our heart and souls, and, a guy that is just one of the toughest, kids that I've ever been around is Adrian Olivas.
Joker.
A lot of guys know him as Joker, and, rightfully so. He's just that wild card. And he's a guy that we know we can depend on. And, our seniors. Elijah Issa, David Martinez, and Gabe Terrazas, those are 4 guys that, you guys will hear a lot about, because of everything they're going to do in the stat column, but also being our leaders. Yeah. One that you might not hear as much about in the stat column is Gabe Terrazas, but I guarantee you ask Ryan Estrada, you ask Elijah, you ask Jadarius, who's helping open up the holes, protect them, and, let them get those touchdowns. Gabe is the number 1 guy.
And he's kind of like the embodiment of my second category, my lunch pail guys. Because quite frankly, you got a great culture, but it starts to have to be enforced by the players, not just the coaches. Who are some of those players behind the scenes, helping kids out with tutoring, helping kids out in the weight room, teaching those incoming freshmen like, hey, that's not what we do here.
Exactly.
This is what we do here. Who are those guys besides Gabe that's out there enforcing the culture here at El Dorado?
Yeah, Gabe is definitely a guy leading the charge, but, guys that come to mind, Isaac Gutierrez, a safety of ours. We got some guys on the outside defensively also, Nick Lopez, young guys, Matt Pinto, and, we can name off a bunch of other guys that are on there, but we really have a great group of young men. And those guys are some of the ones that lead the charge and, being our leadership guys and, making sure that the locker room is cleaned up, making sure that everybody's finishing past the line, in sprints, making sure that guys feel welcome. That's a huge thing is, having them understand those freshmen, those aren't just little freshmen. Like, those are our younger brothers. And those guys, especially,
they turn into seniors real quick.
Really quick. And that's something that I talked to them, recently about is the legacy that you guys are going to leave this year. Those guys are the ones that are going to have to continue. So understand that it's not just what you guys have this year, it's the impact that you're going to have in your community. And these guys are the first ones that are going to have that, to take all that in. So once they understand, it's bigger than me, it's bigger than the team, And they can make sure that the freshmen understand that. That's kind of how the whole culture kind of revolves.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And I tell you what, that's the big thing. And the culture, it all brings us to one thing. We talk about it, sports being the one place where you can put in a lot of hard work and there be no payoff, but it's a results-based industry.
Exactly.
And we got to have wins. And wins, we got to have game day.
Exactly.
So what does game day look like for you, Coach? What is it looking like from the beginning until that whistle blows on kickoff? What's your game day routine looking like, Coach?
Yeah, something we started implementing a couple of years ago is, on game days we go to our elementary feeders. So we have a group of guys that go to, where they went when they were younger.
Okay.
We spread all the guys out along with coaches, and we go and we meet and greet, our elementary kids, our younger brothers and sisters. So that's huge. That's something that I enjoy seeing. Those guys light up when they get a fist bump from, these guys, and they look up to them. So that's how we start our day, and it's a great way to start it off. And
pretty good little recruiting tool as well.
Yes, sir. No, definitely. And they see, all these guys. They don't know the difference between, most of them. They just see how big they are.
Right.
They're in their jersey, they look sharp, and it's awesome. And that's why I tell these guys is, you're their mentor. Be those guys that they look up to and want to emulate. As they grow up. Understand they're looking at you guys. So watch your behavior, watch your language. Because they're watching everything you guys do. So that's an awesome way to start it off. As the day goes through, we have the athletic coordinator duties, administrator assignments that we have. Just kind of going over the play calls, offensive, defensively, finalizing those things and making sure that, all those tendencies are in place, looking at the different execution, from what do we do? We have this many timeouts. What do we do in this situation? What are we going to do in overtime? Going through and making sure that all those things are, staying fresh in our memory. And then, an awesome thing our booster club does is every game day they provide us with a meal, game day meal. So it's time to break bread with the kids, with the coaches, and we have that meal before, we go out to battle, so to speak. So, and once we get on that bus, it's locked in. Our guys know, hey, put your earphones in, make sure that you guys are, on your phone, looking at your playbook, whatever the case may be, lock in, and it's complete silence. Everybody's focused, getting ready to go, and do their responsibility to the best effort that they can. And then we get into the fields, and we're blessed, being an SISD, to have some great, facilities. SAC 1, now SAC 2.
Yeah.
We're excited to break that bad boy in. So, whether we're going away or home, it's always awesome to go on that bus ride with those kids, and you just see their preparation and their focus lock in.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now, results-based industry,
Yes,
so
sir.
we can't celebrate losses. So after the big win, which is the result we're looking for, what are you doing after a big win, Coach? What's the ritual?
You know what, they're going to obviously see this, but the one thing I really enjoy is when those kids turn on that music and blast it. It's something that they enjoy. They're hanging out, they're dancing, they're having that camaraderie, and that's something I remember as a player. And so that's something I really enjoy seeing is, hey, you better have some good music on. And at that point, they won, they get to choose a playlist, so they're excited for it, and that's fun.
Hey, I tell you what, if that's what they're excited for, they're coaching to keep doing it. And I tell you what, I'm excited about you guys this season. Hopefully the music will be blaring a lot this season over here in the Empire. But I'm looking forward to an exciting season from you, Coach. I appreciate you having us over. Thanks for your time.
Appreciate you.
Yep.
Thank you.